All right, I am here with Malte Fiebing Peterson, and he is the president of the German Titanic Society. And I'm very excited he's joining us here today to discuss the 1943 film Titanic. I am so happy to chat with you today. Thanks for being here.
It's a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for this invitation.
Of course. And I'm just going to launch in. Obviously, it's very difficult as a modern audience to reconcile the origins of this movie as we consume it. So what is the historical value in watching a film like this that has such horrific origins? You know, in this case, from the Nazi Party used to discredit an entire group of people. So what is the historical value in watching this?
We have to go back in history, of course, to understand why they wanted to have this movie. So it was planned to have this movie in Nazi Germany in 1942. So they want to have the 30th anniversary of the sinking. And at that time, they wanted to have a movie to have anti-British doctrines in a film. So it was planned as a propaganda film. But when you watch this movie, I think when you want to say it's a propaganda movie, then let's call it a very bad one, because it's really missing the point. So when you see this movie, then it creates I would say, we rather than me perspective, and this cannot be a powerful anti-British propaganda. So when you see the people on the ship and the movie is made in technical matters very, very good, then you see that the people really feel and they become a passenger on board. And the movie was made by the Nazi Party and their friends, let me call it like that. And they made a presentation in Germany, and Joseph Goebbels, the propaganda minister, was part of this premiere. And after this premiere, he had forbidden the movie in Nazi Germany, because all the people that saw this movie for the first time were crying in the end. And that was not what he wanted to have. He wanted to have that every German viewer is happy to see the dying Jewish, English, and American people. And of course, they should have been happy about the German heroes in this movie that never existed. But like I said, it was missing the point. So that is the reason why I think it's very worth to look this movie. And for me, it's rather a historic movie made for entertainment and not for pure propaganda.
And I should mention, you literally wrote the book on this film. And of course, the museum and I will be linking that in all of our notes for when we post this. But, you know, one of the most accurate movies that people always cite about the Titanic is A Night to Remember. And this is a perfect segue off of what you just said. The Night to Remember actually uses clips from this 1943 film. And I think that speaks to the accuracy and everything you just said about how the finished product ended up in the 1943 film. So how did that come about? How did clips from this film end up in the acclaimed, iconic Night to Remember?
Yes, that's a very, I would say like a fun fact. So I also made lectures in Belfast or in Southampton, so to British people, and they are very surprised when I say, I know that the movie from the 50s that you mentioned, the movie from 1958 from Roy Ward Baker, The Night to Remember, until James Cameron's movie was released, it was known as the most accurate, best movie on this matter. And when you see and watch this movie very, very closely, then you find out that they, like you said, use parts of the Nazi movie. And that has also to do with the history, of course, because there was not this big German cinema presentation. As I told you, the Nazi Party had forbidden this movie, and so the copy of this movie, the premiere copy, was in Berlin, and it was destroyed in an air raid during the Second World War. And this movie was premiered in the occupied Paris, and in Paris they showed this movie to Germans that were at the front, that were during the war in Paris for occupying the city, but they were not showing it to Germans in Germany. So in August of 44, there was this. Of course, there was the end of the occupation of Paris. So the Allied forces went to Paris, and so this copy of this movie got in the hands of the Allied forces. And so they brought this movie to London. And here in London, Roy Ward Baker began his research for his movie in the 50s, and he found this copy. And obviously he liked it. And that is the reason why he really used scenes from this movie. And all of these scenes that were used in the British movie from the 50s were model scenes. These model scenes from the 43 Nazi movie were made very, very good. So they had very good special effects, we would say today. Mm-hmm. And so he really took whole scenes from this movie. And at that time, of course, nobody noticed that because the movie still was forbidden. In Germany, nobody knew this movie because it still was forbidden. And so he could use these scenes. And that is very surprising because, of course, Baker also had a model for his movie, and it was more accurate and it was much more better in detail. But for example, the sinking scenes or the scene what I just explained where the ship is going through the Atlantic, he used and copied from the German movie.
I'm enamored of film history, and I know a lot of our viewers are as well. So I think I wish we had more time. There's 1,000 questions I would love to follow that up with in terms of cinematic history. And again, people can check out your book for more info on how all of this played out. And my last question is in sort of the realm of cinematic history as well. Do you think that the 1943 German film influenced James Cameron's epic? And if so, what are some of the common themes that we see again and again in Titanic films?
Yeah, so I'm very sure that James Cameron was influenced by this movie. And he told me when I met him in Belfast in 2012, he told me he had read the book. And there is this chapter in my book where I compare scenes. And there I write that I think that he's known the movie, and I just tell some scenes. And he met me at the opening of the Titanic Belfast in this museum. And he told me, oh, you have forgotten 2 scenes. And he told me 2 more that he also had stolen from the German movie. So it was very, very funny. And of course, when you compare Titanic movies, you have a lot of things that are comparable because the story is the same. So in every Titanic movie, the ship is sinking in the end, for example. So you can't say that is the point. But there are some things that for me also were very surprisingly when I first ever have seen the German movie that I found out, for example, we think of scenes, there's this wild third-class party, for example. Only in the movie from Cameron and in the movie from 1943, we have scenes of a wild party in the third class, for example. We have the story of this young, dashing man that gets the girl he loves to ditch the man she was proposed to only because her parents wanted to. Also something that is in both movies. We have a sideline with a stolen jewel, a blue diamond. That is not an invention of James Cameron. There's a blue diamond in the Nazi movie, for example.
I really would encourage people, again, it's the book Titanic 1943, Nazi Germany's version of the disaster that you have written. There's so much more to uncover, and the viewers are about to watch this film, and so it will be a great companion piece to follow up and learn more. This was such a delight to get to talk to you. Thank you so much for joining us today.
It was a pleasure.